Welcome everyone to a new edition of Agile Takes. We take a few minutes to talk about some of the big things happening with cybersecurity, and we bring in some very distinguished expert guests. So joining me today are two very important people from Technogen, a partner of Agile Blues. I'd like to welcome Karen Braxton and Dr. Ron Martin. So let's dive right into it. First question's for Karen. We always start ladies first. So obviously, Karen, so much going on this year with cybersecurity. Obviously, tremendously more probably going on, unfortunately, next year with cybersecurity. So when you think about all this stuff, and when you think about how companies, how organizations, how government entities are thinking through a cybersecurity program, what's the major challenges that they're thinking through? What advice do you give them when they're looking to not just assess where they are, but where they need to take their cyber strategy?
Yeah. So Tony, that's a good question, especially when you talk about all the industries, right? And all the different types of businesses that are out there and the different sizes, whether they're small or large. I think one of the first questions I like to ask is, do you have a security plan, right? And does that encompass the cloud? Do you have a cloud? You may not. So some of these questions, okay, and then do you remediate? Do you have a mitigation plan? Do you conduct risk assessments? So I have like a series of questions that I think all companies, businesses, right? It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you should ask yourself. And if you don't have some of these things like ability to test your vulnerabilities, right? So if you go to someone's company and you ask their CIO where their vulnerabilities are and they don't know, well, that might be of concern, right? So we need to know those things. And your CIO, who do you have in place? That's another question for your cybersecurity personnel, right? Your cybersecurity team. So your CIO, your CISO, your CTO, who's in place, and are they aware of these threats and vulnerabilities? What are they doing to remediate them? The other question I would say to some companies is, do you partner with a good cyber security solutions company? Okay, like Technogen Cyber. Do you have a company like Agile Blue, okay, who can provide your SOC? All right, so where you're looking at your traffic. Are you doing that? Do you even have a SOC or a NOC? So these are questions. It would almost be almost a checklist, right? Sure. That I think some companies and industries need to ask themselves when it comes to their strategy, right, for cybersecurity and how to handle that.
Well, it's interesting. What's interesting, I was on a call today with some it was a consortium group, and they were talking about 2023, and is there going to be a slowdown or recession or whatever the potpourri is on the news that people hear. And in cybersecurity, that already has a huge job openings that they can't fill.
Yes.
Companies like Technogen that could bring in expert skill sets for fractional services are really important. Are you starting to see government agencies, state agencies, businesses, kind of talking through that as they're trying to assess their 2023?
Yes, Tony, we are. And a lot of that you just said, like the state agencies, right? Your local, your government, your institutions, your educational institutions are looking to have those hierarchies of cybersecurity personnel, to have them in place so that they can look at, like you said, forward to 2023 and beyond, to help not only protect your data and your infrastructure, but basically have that cybersecurity strategy and plan.
Yep,
right? It's definitely needed. We all know that. I mean, so many from the government institutions on down have been hacked. We've heard the stories in 2022.
It just shows you it is just going to hit everywhere. And I think we're really going to see a tsunami. So Dr. Ron, let me ask you this question. All right. Research reports, we all see them, we hear them. World Economic Forum on global risk, which is really interesting, list the top 3 risks, right? And it's, infectious disease, obviously coming off of a really ridiculous couple of years. Income inequality, right? That's probably unfortunately going to be part of risks probably for the rest of, my life, I can tell you that. But the fourth is cybersecurity. And it's crazy to see them juxtapose those main crazy big, world changing issues with cyber, right? And we're all in cyber, but it's funny to see them put it there. So my question to you is, like, that's pretty intense for cybersecurity to be ranked fourth next to those huge things. You see a lot of stuff. You talk to a lot of people. I mean, what do you think people should be doing, thinking about from a national perspective? And then how do you reduce? Obviously, people think they can reduce some of the things that I just mentioned, maybe. But how do you reduce the cybersecurity challenge, or at least address it?
The main thing is the recognition that cyberness is a part of our life now. And I have to take it from there, because sometimes we're not necessarily looking at cyberness. And reason why I'm just trying to make it very simple is because of the fact it's critical to our way of life. The involving indicators like operational technology and this new concept is not really that new, PNT, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, in our lives. So operational technology, that's like your industrial control systems, and that's what a lot of people think it is. Critical manufacturing and what happens on the thing floor. Well, that's part of it, but no one ever thinks about the elevator in your building as part of a control system,
Absolutely.
and people will hack into that. So we have to take a real look at our cyberness. And we don't do that very well. We're concentrating on the enterprise. We're concentrating on those types of environments, saying, okay, if I got the enterprise taken up, but 9 times out of 10, your elevator's not on your enterprise. Your heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system is not on your enterprise. Your camera system may not be on an enterprise. And folks will use that as a gateway to get into your enterprise. And there's a lot of data out there that will talk that. But one of the newest things that's coming up, and in our lives now, we rely on this. It's called PNT. They said, well, what are you talking about, Ron? PNT is positioning, navigation, and timing. I said, well, what does that got to do with cyberness? Well, just think about it for a minute. We all have cars, and some of us are blessed enough to have late model cars, and we're riding around on a little computer system. Really, it is. So now what happens with that? That's a control system. Your brakes, your lane thing. So what's happening is folks are looking at that as an entryway to that server to hack into it, to do some things. Now think about this for a minute. Our planes. We have all these planes in the sky. They use global positioning systems. They use navigation, and the timing portion of it, they have to time all of that data so they don't bump into each other, because that could ruin your day at 30,000 feet if planes start bumping into each other. So the thing is that when you look at PNT, that's the new, that's going to be something that we really need to take a look at globally. Because when we start looking at the threats that are out there, the nation states, they want to disrupt our way of life. So how do we protect ourselves? How do we think about it? First of all, you got to recognize that you can be hacked. And one of the things that we're moving towards is a zero trust environment. That means you don't trust people to come into your network. You're going to, and then another piece of zero trust, as the National Institute of Standards and Technology suggests in their document, is software-defined perimeter. Now, okay, I've said all of that stuff, but what does that really mean? That means that your network or your environment is hidden until you get authenticated or vetted before you touch the network.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is so there's two things. The zero trust, what you can do today is come up with trust no one, and only allow those folks that have a bona fide need to come into your network. And there's ways of doing it. we don't have time to talk about the whole zero trust piece.
Right.
But then the next thing is to make sure that you've got infrastructure that can continuously monitor not only the people you let in, but your employees. So from a global standpoint, you have to be also vigilant in terms of who's in your house and what are they doing in your house.
No, that's it. It's been an excellent discussion. You guys bring up some really good thoughts. And what's funny is you take something like MFA, multi-factor authentication, which, starts getting the lines of trying to, solve some problems. And people will say, it's hard, it's painful, it adds a step, it takes too long. Well, they're going to say the same thing about zero trust. Now, granted, I'm on your side. I agree with everything you said today. But there's always going to be hesitation to changing things. But these points were excellent. So we're really at our time. So to get a hold of Technogen, you can check them out at technogeninc.com. You can also find Karen Braxton or Dr. Ron Martin at LinkedIn. Thank you so much for doing this Agile Takes, and we'll talk to you guys in 2023.
Thank you as well, Agile Blue. Your time.
Okay, now.
Bye-bye.